George Carlin is dead now, but when George Carlin was alive, I thought he was funny. I don't know if you did, but I thought he was particularly funny when he talked about stuff. You remember that routine? That's all your house is, George Carlin said, a place to keep your stuff. If you didn't have so much stuff, you wouldn't need a house. You could just walk around all the time. A house is just a pile of stuff with a cover on it. And when you leave, you have to lock it up because you don't want somebody to come along and take some of your stuff. That's what a house is, a place to keep your stuff while you go out and get more stuff. Sometimes you got to move. You got to get a bigger house. Why? Not enough room for your stuff anymore. This is the third in a series on the parable of the sower. The first was the path, the hard heart. Last week, the rocky soil, the shallow heart. Today, the thorn-choked soil and the crowded heart. This is what Jesus says. In the third soil, where promising life was choked out, there are those who, like seed sown among the thorns, hear the word, but the worries of this life, the deceitfulness of wealth, and the desire for other things come and choke the word, making it unfruitful. You can hear it coming, can't you? It's the money sermon. Some of you who've been sitting here before many preachers, you can detect the money sermon coming, can't you? You know the money sermon. That's when the preacher tries to guilt you into giving. Oh, I know all about this, you say. Stewardship is just a code word for the time of the year when the church reaches for your wallet and says, "Show me the money." It's the money sermon. But today's sermon is really not about money or even about things and stuff. In a way, it's about love. It's about a God who loves you and me so much that he doesn't want us to be miserable. In this third soil, Jesus warns us of the misery that comes if we fasten our lives onto temporary trinkets and treasures which will tie us down like the Lilliputians did Gulliver on the beach. In the rural upper Midwest, it seems like everybody has a pole barn. You know a barn like that. It's full of old tires and old brakes, a trailer, dozens of tools gathering dust, coffee cans full of lug nuts and screws. Nobody in America lives like desert monks. We all accumulate stuff. Ed and Edna's pole barn is pretty typical. Their life is typical. She has cupboards and bureaus and cabinets, a garage, an attic, and spare bedroom crammed full of things that define her. If you ask the neighbors, they'll say, "Oh, you know Edna Furbelow. She's the one who collects Hummels." Every so often, Edna would take some of the clutter in her house out to the front yard and unload it on other people. But if you walked in the house after it was over, you couldn't tell much difference. Well, Ed died, and then Edna died, and her husband's pole barn and the house finally had to be emptied. Everything had to go. It's too bad that Edna wasn't there to see the lesson, because an estate sale is morally instructive. Have you ever been to one? Absent the owners, all those valued items lose their meaning. So much so that even your children and your closest friends will remark, "My God, look at all this junk." The estate sale agent who doesn't want to haul it away prices everything low. Books you treasure, 50 cents. A big set of china, a few bucks. An old rusty bicycle, a once prized lamp that now seems hideous, All of it set on the green grass outside the barn, along with Ed's drill press and bandsaw, his treasured implements that are now headed for retirement. And the auctioneer then calls out lot 152. It's a collection of 400 Hummers. Eyes roll and knowing smiles break out, but no one bids. The auctioneer looks at the estate agent, who looks at Edna's oldest daughter, who shrugs her shoulders. A lifetime hobby and a person's identity have come to this. If you listen carefully, you can almost hear Jesus asking, and now these Hummers, whose will they all be? Early in my life, my father endeavored to teach me a lesson. Don't waste your money, he said, buying the cheapest of things. Because it may cost less up front, but it'll leave you stranded down the road. Buy the best you can afford. You'll never regret it. That's really all Jesus is saying here. Money and all that money can buy, this is not a bad thing. In fact, stuff is a gift from God. Stuff is meant to bring us pleasure. There's nothing wrong with buying a new dishwasher when you need it. Nothing wrong with dapper clothes. God doesn't condemn our adding a nice sunroom to mellow out or our money market funds. He doesn't deny the goodness of holiday getaways or a new pair of shoes. He just wants to remind us of what we are very prone to forget. That in comparison to eternity, the treasures and trinkets of this world are cheap. They're passing away. And if you set your heart on them, they're going to cause you trouble down the road. In fact, you're headed for great misery. I used to play this game as a child. Maybe you did too. I'd sit on the sand where the retreating tide had left the beach hard and clear, and I'd start digging frantically, piling up a big pile of sand, a sand castle. It didn't matter. The aesthetics of it didn't matter to me. The bigger it was, the better. Digging, a big pile of sand. What was important to me as a child was the wall that I built around the sand castle. As the ebbing tide turned to a flowing one, I worked frantically to build the Great Wall of China around my castle. It was so high, I probably should have gotten a seawall permit. And then I'd engineer elaborate channels around the whole thing, meant to carry the water away if the flood should come. Of course, the flood did come, as floods always come. The channels drained and the Great Wall of China held for a while. And then I scooped and dug and patched and repaired till my sunburned shoulders ached with exhaustion. And then the big one, you know the big one came, as the big one always comes. So when the big one pulled back, laughing, I looked at my castle and the wall that surrounded it, now a dimple on the landscape. One more wave, and it disappeared completely. You know the great thing about that child's game? Building a castle that you think will last? Is that when reality strikes and the pretending is over and your castle is gone, you can get up, leave the beach, go to the cottage, take a shower, put on dry clothes, go to the table at the beach where you're ravenously hungry, and eat a meal where love is shared. You can lie down and sleep and be lulled asleep by the peace of the rocking waves. But if your whole life is like that child's game, a game of building up, what you think will never inevitably be destroyed, there is no rest or respite. There's just misery. If that is true, wouldn't it make sense to invest your life in something that lasts? There are 3 things that last, Paul says in 1 Corinthians. You remember them: faith, hope, and love. And the thing that lasts longer than anything else is love. Make love your aim, Paul says. I don't know about you, but I want to follow my Father's advice, invest my life in something that will last. Our wealth, John Walton said once, cannot solve our most important problems. Wealth will buy you a good oncologist, but it cannot buy you one moment of time to extend your life when your life is over. Wealth will buy you a good psychiatrist, but it cannot buy you sanity or peace of mind. It may attract some hanger-oners, some companions of a sort, but it cannot buy trust or love or lasting friendship. It can buy you the best of educations, but it cannot buy you wisdom. Possessions are, for all we trust them, passing things and not of eternal worth. I don't know about you, but when I step out into eternity and it's just me and God and eternity stretched before me, I want to be able to show God more than the houses I lived in and the cars I drove and the nice clothes I wore and all the toys I owned. I want to be able to show Him how I anointed someone with sweet perfume, how I lifted someone up when they had fallen, how I shared the gospel of love with His children, how I paid my life forward in the only currency that will last forever and never be devalued. That is the currency of love. How about you? Are you building sandcastles, investing in trinkets, or in something that's going to last? In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen.